of Hansel and Gretel. Tony.
Once upon a time, deep in a forest, there lived a woodchopper, his wife, and their two children, Hansel and Gretel. It was a beautiful forest, full of trees and flowers and butterflies and streams. The family had everything they could ever want. Well, except one small thing. Food! Food! I must have food! Said the woodchopper's wife, pulling her hair and running round in circles. Food is not everything, dear, said the woodchopper's husband. No, but it's something. Didn't you hear the nice young narrator? He just told us. We have flowers and trees and butterflies and streams. What more could a person want? Ever hear of carbohydrates, riboflavins, amino acids? That confused the woodchopper somewhat. After a little bit more argument, the woodchopper agreed to go out into the forest and to try to hunt down some of these amino acids and riboflavins, and his wife assured him, yes, they are in season. So off he went. A curious thing happened every time he got into the forest, for he could not pass a tree without chopping it down, and he'd come home laden with logs, but no food. His wife was becoming somewhat frustrated with this, and she was starting to go a little bit doolally. Hey kids, anyone like a roast leg of log? Yummy, said Hansel. The kids realised they had to take matters into their own hands. We've got to go out and get some food, whispered Gretel. Mum's gone a little kooky. Kooky? I would love a cookie, said their mother. Chocolate chip cookie. So the kids snuck out, and Hansel grabbed a few grains of corn as they went. They'd been walking around for a few hours, and Gretel started to get worried. Hansel, what are we going to do if we find some food? How are we going to get our way home? No problem, Gretel. I've already thought about it. I took some corn as we left, and I've been leaving it as a trail. Great plan, huh? Hansel, that plan is for the birds. Yes, you guessed it. It literally was for the birds. There was a little trail of crows behind them and eating up all the corn that they've left. They're now hopelessly lost, wandering around in a very tortuous journey, trying to find their way, passing tree after tree after tree. When suddenly, Hansel bumped into something that wasn't the tree. What's your step, stupid? You bumped right into that gingerbread house. 1, 2, 3. It hit them. Gingerbread house? Yes, they had bumped into a 3-bed, 4-bath, Victorian-style gingerbread house. And in a traditional law, was said to know like that. So, Gretel leaned over and tore off a little piece of the house. Have a little bit of shutter. I'm more of a patio man myself, said Hansel. And soon the brother and sister team had eaten a big hole in the small house, when out of thin air, who should appear but little old hunched over woman with a wart on her nose, carrying a broomstick and a big black pointy hat. Oh, no, I knew it was too good to be true. You're a wicked witch, aren't you? Well, yes. And you've got all sorts of magic powers. Well, no. You mean you don't breathe fire and smoke? Well, yeah, I become nauseous when I do, and the health and safety laws now about smoke are a real drag. So, you can't summon up demons? I never thought about that. Demons, hey demons, come to mama! And suddenly, out of the blue, appeared a bluebird. You've got no powers at all! Well, there's one thing I'm very good at, and that's turning small children into aardvarks. And she pointed her crooked finger at Hansel, and zing! He became an aardvark. Got to admit, said Gretel, at that you're pretty good. Only thing is, I don't really care much for aardvarks. Well, turn me back, pleaded Hansel. But I care even less for children. And I've got the witch's tradition to uphold, you know. Isn't there something you'd rather do, said Gretel. Oh, sure. I'd rather be flying around on my broomstick, but I can't get the thing to go. And I've called the WWF. The WWF, said Gretel? Yes, the Wicked Witches Foundation. Oh, well, maybe I can help you. How can you help me? You're not a witch. Well, there's a little witch in all us girls. If I help you, would you turn Hansel back into a little boy again? Well, sure. So Gretel grabs the broom. Now you take this broom and you twirl it all around and you put it on the ground and you sit right down. You tell that broom, va va voom, fly around the room. And Gretel's flying around the room on a broomstick. The witch was green with envy. Well, she was already pretty green to start with, but you get the picture. And she grabs the broom from Gretel and she goes off, but she forgets to ask Gretel, how did she turn it off? And suddenly, she's orbiting the earth. And if you look very carefully, she's still there today. But the witch did keep her word. And no sooner had she gone, than Hansel turned back into a little boy again. So Hansel and Gretel quickly grabbed all their things and went out into the deep, confusing forest. But since this was a magical forest, before long they came upon a huge talking duck. Oh, tell us, Mr. Duck, how do we find our way back to our cottage? Je ne comprends pas. Yes, this was a French talking duck with a Cockney accent. But the French duck motioned them onto his back, and the two kids got onto his back, and they were off. And after a very long journey, the duck said, "Voilà, nous sommes ici," which means end of the line. The two kids got off, and there was their little old cottage, sitting by the little lake, and sitting on a log was their little old father. But he wasn't holding an axe, he was holding a musket. "Father," said Gretel, "why aren't you chopping down trees?" "Gretel, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" He would, he could, and he could chuck wood, he would chuck wood as much as he could. "Oh, I see, right. Besides, Gretel, chucking down trees is no longer for me. I am now a hunter. Hunting is for me." And from that day onwards, they never went short of food again. And their mother was never hungry anymore. But she did find it a little bit disconcerting, all the bullets whizzing around the front room all the time. Sometimes, she said to Hansel, "I wish he'd stuck to wood chopping." Mr. Toastmaster.